At 6:52 on my mother's birthday, my brother texted me 3 words that made me pull over in a Walgreens parking lot and laugh out loud. Where is everything? I stared at the screen, then at the passenger seat beside me. A grocery store bouquet, my purse, my car keys. That was it. No sheet cake sliding around in the back seat, no foil trays of baked ziti, no folding chairs cutting grooves into my upholstery. No backup ice, no paper plates, no emergency candles, no plastic serving spoons because somehow nobody in my family ever owned enough spoons on a birthday. Just flowers. My phone buzzed again. Mom's asking if you're close. Dad says people are already here. Please tell me the food's in your car. I typed back, I'm 10 minutes away. Then I put my phone face down and sat there with my hands on the wheel, listening to my own heartbeat. For the first time in 5 years, I was showing up to my mother's birthday like everybody else, as a guest. My name is Lina Morales. I was 27 that spring, worked as a school counselor in Phoenix, and had a bad habit of becoming the dependable one in any room I walked into. At work, that meant I was the person kids came to when they were scared to go home, and teachers came to when a parent meeting was about to turn ugly. At home, it meant if something needed doing, it drifted toward me like metal to a magnet. I used to think that was a compliment. The first year I hosted my mom's birthday, it actually was. She had just come off a rough stretch. My dad had been between jobs, their water heater had exploded, and my mother, Sonia, had spent half that month pretending everything was fine while drying dishes with towels she'd already used to soak up water from the garage. I was 22, living in a cramped apartment with a balcony the size of a welcome mat, and I said, "Let me do dinner this year." She looked so relieved I could have cried. So I cleaned my apartment top to bottom, borrowed chairs from my downstairs neighbor, made her favorite lemon chicken, roasted potatoes with too much rosemary because I was nervous, and baked a vanilla cake with strawberries because my mom always said chocolate was too heavy after pasta. That night, she hugged me in my tiny kitchen and whispered, "You made me feel special." That should have been enough to keep the memory sweet. But the next year, nobody asked whether I wanted to do it again. They just asked what time. By year 3, my brother Evan's contribution was always flowers and a social media post. My dad's contribution was sitting at the table saying things like, "Lina, you always make this look easy," while I was sweating over a stove with frosting on one wrist and a timer going off behind me. By year 4, I was texting my aunt to confirm she could pick up Grandma Celia, reminding my cousin not to bring her famous salad with raw onions my mother hated, and washing roasting pans at 11:30 while everyone posted photos captioned, "Family is everything." My mother would kiss my cheek and say, "I don't know what I'd do without you." Back then, I still thought that meant she saw me. Then came year 5. My caseload at work had doubled. I was taking night classes because I wanted my license. I had started waking up at 3 in the morning with my jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. 2 weeks before my mom's birthday, I was eating crackers over my sink for dinner when the family group chat lit up. "Mom's birthday is the 14th. Lina, same time as last year? Do you need me to bring flowers?" Evan added, as if he were offering to move mountains. I stared at the messages for a full minute. Then I wrote, "I'd love to celebrate Mom, but I'm not hosting or cooking this year. Maybe we can do a restaurant, or everybody can bring one dish." I read it twice before sending. It wasn't angry. It wasn't dramatic. It was one grown woman setting the mildest boundary on earth. No one replied. Not for 2 days. Then Evan texted me separately. "Wait, so you're just not doing Mom's birthday?" I wrote back, "No, I'm not doing everybody's job for Mom's birthday. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, came back. That's harsh. Mom's gonna be crushed. I almost folded right there. That was the worst part of being the reliable one. People didn't even need to yell. A disappointed tone did the job just fine. Then my cousin Marisol called me. Not texted, called. That should have warned me. She said, I probably shouldn't get involved, but did you really tell everyone you weren't doing your mom's birthday because you're tired of nobody helping? I sat up straight. Who said that? A pause. Then, quietly, your mom. I didn't say anything. Marisol rushed on. Lena, I'm not trying to start something. I just thought everybody knew you'd been carrying this whole thing. But your mom told my mom that you like being in charge, that hosting makes you feel important. She said if anyone else tried to take over, you'd be offended. I felt something cold move through me. Not because I thought my mother was evil. Not because I believed she sat around plotting against me. It was worse than that. It sounded exactly like the kind of lie a person tells when the truth makes them feel small. I said, she told people that? Marisol sighed. I think she told herself that first. After we hung up, I sat on my couch in complete silence. 5 years of exhaustion rearranged themselves in my head. All those dinners I thought my family had taken for granted? Maybe they had. But maybe they'd also been told I wanted it, needed it, claimed it. Which meant every time I scrubbed pans alone at midnight, my mother had been protecting a story. A story where she wasn't being served by one daughter while everyone else clapped. A story where she was simply adored. That was the moment I decided I would still go. I would bring flowers. I would hug my mother. I would sit down. And I would not rescue anybody from the truth. When I walked into my parents' house that evening, the smell that hit me wasn't garlic or baked sugar or roasted chicken. It was lemon furniture polish. The dining table was bare, except for a birthday banner hanging crooked behind it, and a bowl of stale mints nobody ate. My dad was in a polo shirt, opening and closing cabinets like dinner might be hiding in one of them. Evan came toward me fast, smiling the way people smile when they're panicking in front of guests. Okay, good, he said under his breath. Start unloading, and I'll help. I held up the bouquet. His smile dropped. That's it? That's what I brought. He blinked. Lena. Behind him, my mother turned from the hallway. She had on the blue blouse I bought her 2 Christmases ago, and for a split second, I saw actual confusion cross her face. Not anger, not hurt. Confusion. Like she had reached the end of a script and discovered a page was missing. Hi, baby, she said carefully. You didn't. No, I said, and kissed her cheek. Happy birthday. The doorbell rang. My aunt walked in carrying a bottle of wine. My grandma asked if dinner was almost ready. My dad looked at Evan. Evan looked at me. And I did something no one in that house had ever seen me do on a birthday. I sat down. You could feel the room trying to make sense of it. My dad went out and came back with 2 supermarket rotisserie chickens and a bag of rolls. Evan ordered 3 large pizzas, then got annoyed when the place said 45 minutes. My aunt found a box of instant mashed potatoes in the pantry, like she was uncovering buried treasure. My mother kept smiling too hard, like if she held her face in place long enough, embarrassment wouldn't land. Honestly, this is fine, she said to nobody in particular. Simple as nice. But every sentence sounded like it had a crack running through it. Then Grandma Celia, who is 4'11" and has never once feared a room in her life, looked around and said, "Simple would have been a reservation." I nearly choked on my water. Evan muttered, "Can we not do this right now?" Grandma lifted one eyebrow. "Do what? Notice?" The pizza came late. The chicken was dry. Somebody forgot candles. My mother blew out a tea light from the living room because that's all my dad could find. And for the first time, the magic didn't appear. Because magic had never appeared. I had. The real explosion happened in the kitchen after cake, store-bought, chocolate, not even close to what my mother liked. She followed me in while I was rinsing my glass, not washing dishes, just rinsing my own glass. "You made a point," she said, voice low. "Are you happy now?" I turned around slowly. "Is that what you think this is?" "I think you embarrassed me." Her lipstick had faded. The corners of her eyes were wet. "You could have talked to me." "I did talk to you. In the group chat." "In the group chat, Lena?" she snapped. "That's how you handle family?" I stared at her. "How would you have preferred I handle it? Quietly? So nothing changed?" She folded her arms. "This was our tradition." That word hit me harder than I expected. Our. I laughed once, and it came out ugly. "No," I said. "It wasn't." She looked stunned. "It was my labor," I said. "It was me taking off work early, buying groceries, cleaning, cooking, texting everybody, setting up chairs, making your cake, packing leftovers, and scrubbing pans after midnight while everyone else went home. That wasn't a tradition. That was a job." Her face hardened. "You always wanted to do everything yourself." Did I? The room went very still. I said, "Marisol called me." The color left her face. I took one step closer. "You told people I liked hosting because it made me feel important. You told them I'd be offended if anyone helped. Did you really say that?" She opened her mouth, closed it. From the doorway, I heard movement. My dad, Evan. They had heard enough to stop pretending they hadn't. My mother looked past me, then back at the floor. "When you first did it," she said, and now her voice was smaller. "I was ashamed." Nobody spoke. She swallowed. "I couldn't afford to throw the kind of birthday dinner I used to. You stepped in, and everyone kept saying what a wonderful daughter I had. How loved I must be. Her hand shook against the counter. "It felt better than admitting I needed help." I felt my anger hesitate, just for a second. Then she said, "And after a while, I thought maybe you did like it. You were so good at it." There it was. The sentence every exhausted daughter eventually hears in one form or another. You were so good at it. As if competence is consent. As if doing it well means it never cost you anything. Evan looked sick. My dad rubbed the back of his neck and said, "I didn't know." I turned to him. "You didn't ask." He had no answer for that. Grandma appeared in the doorway behind them, like she had been summoned by truth itself. She looked at my mother and said, "A tradition that depends on one woman disappearing into the kitchen isn't sweet. It's convenient." Nobody argued. My mother sat down at the kitchen table and started crying quietly. Not the dramatic kind. Not the kind meant to win. The kind that comes when a person finally hears their own choices out loud. I wish I could tell you I rushed over and held her. I didn't. I stood there shaking, because love and anger were both alive in me, and neither one canceled the other out. Finally, I said, "I love you. That's why I kept doing it. But if love only counts when I'm exhausted, then it isn't love. It's performance. My mother covered her face. That night, I left before the leftovers were packed. Evan was boxing pizza when I grabbed my purse. My dad was wiping the table. Grandma was directing traffic like an air traffic controller with a cane. For once, the cleanup did not belong to me. 3 days later, there was a knock on my apartment door. My mother stood there holding my metal cake carrier in one hand. Empty. "I found this in the hall closet," she said. I let her in. She looked around my apartment, the stack of borrowed folding chairs in the corner, the nick on the wall from where one had scraped last year, the tiny kitchen where she had once whispered that I made her feel special. Then she said, "I never thanked you correctly." I didn't answer. She set the cake carrier on the counter. And I let everyone thank the wrong version of the story. That was closer. She stayed for an hour. We talked. Not perfectly, not neatly, but honestly. A week later, Evan started a group chat for Grandma's birthday with a sign-up list. He volunteered to host. Dad offered to pick up Grandma. Ma made a reservation for brunch and wrote, "Lena, you are under strict instructions to bring nothing but yourself." I stared at that message for a long time before I smiled. Families don't change because one person keeps carrying them. They change when the person doing the carrying finally sets the weight down and lets everybody hear the crash. And if there's one thing I learned the year I brought only flowers, it's this. The people who call your boundaries selfish were usually the ones getting the best seat at the table you built.